Welcome to the HRKyle Podcast, your go-to source for insightful discussions on leadership, job searching, and all things human resources. I'm your host, HRKyle, and each week we dive deep into topics relevant to professionals seeking to elevate their careers and organizations. Whether you're a seasoned leader, a job seeker navigating the ever-changing landscape of employment, or an enthusiast looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the podcast for you. Join me as we explore practical strategies, share expert insights, and engage in meaningful conversations that empower you to succeed in today's dynamic workplace. So, adjust your headphones and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the HRKyle Podcast. I'm your host, HRKyle, and as usual, I'm glad you joined me here today. Today we're going to be going over a topic that I don't think and I don't believe gets nearly as much attention as it should. And that is the building and cultivating of positive habits in your work life. And Becki and I are going to talk about that in segment 1. We're going to share our thoughts, ideas, and considerations around that topic. And then we're going to take a brief break like we always do. And then I've got an expert who's joining me in the studio to talk about this today. In fact, he's written an entire book on building positive habits. He's also an executive for a large printing company in the U.S. So he knows this both from, as I say, a theoretical perspective, but certainly as a practical perspective as well. So he'll be sharing his thoughts on the topic. But before we get to that, we need to take a quick break, and you can learn more about some of the things that we're up to here at HRKyle. We'll be right back. Are you a business owner looking to build a thriving team? Or perhaps a job seeker on a quest for your dream career? Look no further than HRKyle. HRKyle is your trusted partner for all things human resources. We're not just about services, we're about success. For businesses, HRKyle offers tailored HR solutions from talent acquisition to compliance support. We're here to help your team flourish. And for the job seekers, HRKyle provides personalized career guidance and direction that only a seasoned HR professional can offer. We'll help you find that perfect job match. Don't settle for less. Choose HRKyle and unlock success today. Visit us at www.hrkyle.com. HRKyle, unlocking potential, empowering careers, transforming business. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that brief break. And today we're talking about positive habits in our work life and the big difference that can make. And as usual, HRKyle Becki will be joining me today to talk about this topic. Becki, welcome back.
Hi, Kyle. As usual, I'm really glad to be here.
Well, I can tell, and I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you today. So, Becki, I'll turn the floor over to you at this point because you have prepared some questions and some discussion topics for us.
Okay, great. So let's start, Kyle. How can cultivating positive habits in the workplace improve employee engagement and team productivity?
Well, first off, ask yourself this. Would you rather work for a team, a company, an organization, a work group that has a positive approach to their work or a negative approach to your work? And again, that's a rhetorical question. There's no need to answer. Of course, it's going to be positive. So right off the bat, that positive attitude, that positive habits that we're building draws people in. It just naturally does. And we call them positive because they lead to positive results. So they create a positive mindset, and their full intention is to lead to positive results. So first and foremost, you're getting people involved, you're getting them engaged, you're getting them excited. It's something that they can rally behind. And as leaders, that's what we always look to do. We look to create an environment where people are engaged, they're interested, and they're excited about what it is that we're looking to accomplish.
Right. What is the word engaged? Again, I know as an educator what that looks like for a student, but for an employee and a leader, what does that word engaged mean to you?
Engagement means that's a person that is clearly aligned behind the goal of the work group. And what I mean by that is they don't need this direction on everything that they do and all their different activities. They know what they need to do. They're well aware of the goals. They've bought into it, and they're doing things without a lot of direction that contributes to that. And it can be small things, Becki, like making sure that, they're following the health and safety protocols, or making sure that when they walk in and out of the building, if there's something that's a piece of garbage that's on the ground, or the mat's crooked, they're straightening that up. So it's big and small things that they do that we don't have to coach them on, because they feel like they're part of something bigger and they want to positively contribute to that in all different ways.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Moving on, what role do leaders play in helping their teams develop and maintain those positive work habits? And how does that impact the company culture?
Well, first and foremost, and we talk about this in our leadership training all the time, you got to walk the walk. There's a lot of leaders that talk a good game, but they don't walk the walk. They're asking you to do things that they themselves don't do. And again, it can be big things, it can be small things. And a lot of times what I notice is it's the small things that get people that get people derailed. So they see their leader not doing these small things that they should be doing. Like I mentioned, the straightening of the carpet and making sure doors are closed, all these little things. And they become less interested in doing that as well. And anyone who's enjoyed any level of success, they know that it starts with doing those small things really well. That's what ultimately contributes to success. Doing these small things over and over again really well. And that there's positive habits for you.
Right.
And when you get really good at doing the small things really well over and over again, you find that it begins to contribute to doing the bigger things really well over and over.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Right.
That makes total sense.
And there's a saying in sports, which is absolutely true. Winning cultivates winning. Winning attitude, winning habits, that cultivates further winning. And that's why you see certain organizations that over long periods of time seem to do really well. And you see other organizations that over that same period of time seem to struggle. They may have glimpses of greatness, but they don't have that innate culture of positive habits that contribute to longer term success.
Right. What are your thoughts on the leaders going into the other employees' jobs and, working with them for half a day or a couple of hours, or, because leaders do get outside of those jobs after a while of not being there. So what are your thoughts about the leaders actually following or shadowing their employees for a day?
I think that can be a good idea as long as the leader does a lot more listening than you do talking. Because like you said, the leader's been away from it a long time. The worker's doing it. I always say the person that's doing the job is the expert. Right. If I'm the boss and I've been away from that job and I haven't done it forever, I'm no longer the expert. And as the boss, I shouldn't be.
Right.
You don't pay leaders to be the experts on jobs. You pay leaders to lead teams to success. I mean, you couldn't imagine a football coach over your team who was an expert at every one of the positions. And he could play it just as well as the person that's out there. Well, if you said that sounds ridiculous.
Right.
Imagine the coach, okay, well, I'm going to substitute myself in here at center. I'm going to substitute myself in at quarterback. People would say, no, what are you, out of your mind? But in jobs, we see that all the time. The boss says, oh, no, I can still do that job as well as the person that's been doing it day in and day out. Really? You can't. And what that does is, in those situations, the shadowing has the opposite effect. Because what shadowing should do is help the boss see how well the employee is performing. Help the boss see where there's some gaps to where they can put some scaffolding around that employee. Help the boss see where there's a lack of resources and a lack of support. That's what shadowing is about. Shadowing isn't about the boss being able to say, oh, I can still do this job as well as I ever did. No, you can't. And you shouldn't.
Yeah, I love those thoughts. Those are good. Well, let's just finish up then today. How can organizations encourage the development of positive habits in employees without creating burnout or overwhelming them?
Well, I mean, you got to focus on what's positive, and you got to be able to define what that is first off. And what it ties back to is having goals and objectives for your organization as well as your departments and your work groups. So it always starts from there. And then you build your positive habits around that. And you make sure that even if you had a third party come in who had no idea about the situation, they could look at it and say, yeah, that's a positive habit. So I'll give you an example. Say one of the habits comes out is, working long hours and doing whatever it takes and however many hours to get things done. Well, to the person there, yeah, that may sound like a reasonable idea, but I can guarantee you bring somebody in from the outside, they're going to say, no, that's not a positive habit.
Right.
That's a negative habit.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of what you need to look at with habits is what sort of outcomes is it leading to? So and again, I think leaders lose sight of this. What outcomes do we desire? And it starts there, but to your point earlier about shadowing, what sort of outcomes are we achieving?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never stop saying this. If you're not achieving the outcomes that you desire as a leader, you're failing. It's not your people, you're failing. And so many leaders don't realize that. They see failure in their group and it's the people's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, they've gone through 10 people, but guess what? No, my approach is still right. It's just the wrong people. No, your approach is wrong. And it's not just the people. You're failing. And those aren't positive habits. Positive habits lead to positive outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, these are all great points today, Kyle. Really enjoyed this topic a lot. I know I didn't talk as much as I normally do on these, but I really was just listening to your ideas and your thoughts because they are really good for leaders to have these ideas.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm not used to you listening this much either, so it's a bit of an adjustment for me also.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, folks, that does wrap up segment 1 of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some good information and some good guidance that you can put into practice right away. We are going to take a brief break, listen in to some of the things that we're up to here at HRKyle, and after that, we'll be right back with our expert who's going to talk even more about positive habits. But before that, let's do this. Greetings, I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise, an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker. I don't just offer a one-size-fits-all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit HRKyle.com today.
Are you stuck in a job you hate? Dreaming of a career that excites you? It's time to turn those dreams into reality with Get the Job You Love by Kyle Patrick Smith, also known as HRKyle. Discover proven strategies to land your dream job, master interviews, and stand out from the crowd. Packed with expert advice and practical tips, Get the Job You Love is your ultimate guide to career success. Available now on Amazon and other online retailers. Don't wait. Start your journey to a fulfilling career today. Get the job you love, because you deserve a job you love.
Welcome to segment 2 of the HRKyle Podcast. And again, I'm your host, HRKyle. I hope you enjoyed that brief break. And we're heading into segment 2 of the episode tonight. And the theme of this episode has been the power of habits in career success. And I've got a gentleman that's joining me here, Mr. Neil Rogers. And Neil is self-described as a bartender turned salesman. And he, as much as anybody else, knows the power of habits. So that's why I couldn't wait to have him on the show tonight and talk about this topic more in detail. So, Neil, welcome to the HRKyle Podcast.
Kyle, so great for you to have me. This is wonderful.
Great. It's good to have you here, Neil, and I can't wait to talk about habits and the impact that they've had on your career and your life.
Yeah, great. Let's have at it.
So, Neil, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm the seventh of eight of an Irish Catholic family, and I grew up just outside of Boston in a place called Melrose. I stumbled through grade school. Started college, community college level. I may be the only person that any of your listeners have ever heard of that has flunked out of 2 community colleges. And I discovered my roots, my hospitality and my working with people as a bartender is something that, that I enjoyed and I liked and I was good at. So in that low self-esteem point in my life, I developed something, okay, all right, this is something I could be good at. But I knew I didn't want it to be my life's work. So I did go back to school. And this is really where my first foray into habits happened. So I examined why did I flunk out before? Well, it was lack of interest, lack of a whole thing, and probably more interested in a good time than anything else, to be frank. But I now had turned the tide and I wanted to get serious. And I knew I had to get a degree. So I started my little process, my little algorithm in today's parlance, right? And that was simply show up, actively listen, take notes, ask questions, do the extra work, be on time, all these things that kind of sound like sales, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where it all started. And I had a little simple way of organizing myself with a binder and this little simple process I went through. I always wrote on white line paper, and then I 3-hole punched them, and I had all my subjects in tabs. And so I did this every day, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, Neil's a 385 student. So from there, I went and took that same process, and I went into food sales, and basically just showed up, was nice, gave good greetings. If I had an appointment, I was 15 minutes early. I had all my stuff organized. I had a good attitude. I looked good, clean shaven, well dressed. All those little things that in the end, as they say, mean a lot. That's kind of, that business, I'll keep on rolling with that. That business I started with, I think what they did is it wasn't like year-long volume they talked about. For some reason the food business was a week. Well, I started with $3,000 a week in business, which equated to about nothing in commissions. So I had to stay on the bar. So I worked 2 nights in the week on the bar on the weekend. So I made, $1,000 on the weekend and then $100 my real job. But I went through my process and every day did the same things, and how I prospect was the same way, and how I treated my customers, and how I over-delivered to them when I finally got their business. And that business went to $30,000 a week in 18 months, which is $1.5 million. So now I'm making money. I got things going, and I've now really turned the corner and started to be successful. That's kind of the Reader's Digest version of the early stages of how I became a real process-oriented guy.
Yeah. And folks, we're talking to Neil Rogers, and we're talking about habits tonight. And Neil, one takeaway, and I've got to have a few listeners out there that are saying this guy's not talking about anything real complicated here. What do you make of that?
Well, I tell you, Kyle, here's one of the things I always say in my talks. Folks, how many people have ever heard or use the phrase, it's the little things, or the little things mean a lot. Everybody raises their hand. Because it is the minor details, the random acts of kindness that propels achievement and success. And success, as defined by Jim Rohn, who is, I'm sure your audience would know that he's a motivational speaker, and he mentored Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. So Jim's take on success is neither mysterious nor magical. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. What are the basic fundamentals, everybody out there? It's the little things. And they mean a lot.
Well, you lead well into my next question, Neil, is you mentioned consistency. How do you cultivate and maintain that consistency, though? Because that's what a lot of this is about. But how many times do all of us say, oh, my gosh, I had a good routine going here, and I was able to maintain it for a couple of weeks, but then this challenge got in the way, or this thing got in my way, or this hurdle. How do you get past those challenges, those changes, to make sure that it doesn't break that consistency that you're talking about?
Well, everything's progress, not a perfect, right? So give yourself some grace. Something came up. Your kid got sick. You had to do something special for a customer. It messed up your day. A problem arose. Just get back on the horse. Start the next day. Just go right back to where you were, and do not give up on it. So that's the biggest thing I can tell you, because that's and it is all about grace. Don't beat yourself up. It's we all go through it, no matter what we're trying to develop. Is it business development? Is it learning the piano? Is it swimming? Is it being a better tennis player? Being a better golfer? Whatever it is, and you've got your process down, just get back to it. You don't want to go. You can't go months without doing your process. And we say that in our process, which is positive activity, we say 90 days. Just stay with it 90 days. Tweak it, right? You might have to make some changes, but you've committed to it. Again, something comes up, just get right back to it. And you'll look, and the reason why you will get back to it, it's because of the progress you've made. That feeling you get and I'll talk in terms of business development, because that's my specialty. When you do these practices every day that we prescribe in positive activity, you look up 90 days later, you won't believe where you came from. Literally, where did I get all this business? Where did I get these quotes? What about all this positive vibe I have going? That's what keeps you going. You practice the piano, because when you go to your lesson, your instructor says, whoa, that's pretty good, right? So it's, no matter what you're doing, that's our philosophy. Just get right back at it, and you'll be and you can pick it right up.
So it's all about positive momentum, as you said. It's there are going to be those setbacks that are going to happen, like you said. Give yourself some grace, but get right back on and realize that you've still made a lot of progress, and you want to keep that progress going.
Correct. Again, we're not splitting the out on here, Kyle.
Neil, I want to pivot a little bit to the workplace and work culture a little bit. In your experience, how do these positive and creative habits influence an entire workplace culture, or even just a team dynamics? And second part to this question, can you provide an example of how these habits have made a difference in a professional setting with an organization that maybe you've worked with?
So again, most of my career, aside from that food business, I've really been on my own. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with dealing with a department or whatnot. I know in our little gig here, we have a process that we go through. And the two principles in this business are me and my partner in life and in business, my wife. And every day we do practices that get our mindset right. Mm-hmm. So when we have our mindset right, we're now into open-minded, divergent thinking, solution providing, creativity. Right? So positivity to creativity. Now, this is where the 90 days things come in. Now, you do that every day for 90 days, and then you put together some productivity steps in whatever it is you're trying to do. The initial program of positive activity is business development practices, and that is defining what you're selling, who can buy what you sell, what's the benefit you can offer them, who are they, the group you know, the group you buy, the group you meet. How are you going to systematically market to them, right? Just because you get a referral from a friend, it does not mean that person's sitting waiting by the phone for you. You have to get them into a 7-touch campaign. The theory of 7 states that the way to get somebody's attention is with 7 significant touches. Mm-hmm. So I say that would work in any organization, any size. As a matter of fact, we do that with all of our clients now. We profess to do that. I mean, and I'm not talking about emails as a touch, as a real good touch. It's not a tenacious touch, as I would call it. It's a persistent touch. It sounds like test for a reason, right? So those are the things that we do every day, and I think those would work well. And again, it gets back to how then you feel about that. How you're making progress, you're feeling better, your team is getting better for team environment if everybody's doing their part, right? Yeah. So, and for us, it's just about, it turned our whole life around when we always had elements of positivity in our lives and pieces. I remember when I was first out on the road 100 years ago, I don't know how I did this, but I put stickies on I taped a note on a dashboard. Stay on the road. Be positive. You're just getting started. Make another call. Right? So, I mean, as I said, I'm the 7th of 8 of an Irish Catholic family. It wasn't the most positive environment. I've been chipping away at Irish Catholic negativity for 60 plus years. So, but those are all how I built the business. That my second business that I got into was I was in the athletic footwear and apparel business. I started with 0 in that business. And in 4 years, on off brands, this was not Nike or Adidas. These are brands that nobody wanted. I had a $10 million business. Right? Me, myself, and I.
Because of the same principles that we're talking about.
The same principles. Yep. You just go back and it seems completely rote-like, but that's what it's meant to be. Rote-like. Just keep doing these things, these practices every day. Get your mindset right. Get ready to open up that email that might set your day in another place where maybe you can't do the productivity steps that day because something happened. But then again, what do we say? We get right back on board the next day. Yeah. So
awesome. Well, Neil, in the minute or so that we have left, and you've given already some great guidance and direction on this, but just to wrap us up for today, for the individuals looking to integrate these habits that you're talking about into their own lives and obviously into their careers, what advice would you give to help them just to get started? And then as we've talked about throughout this conversation, just to sustain these practices over time, because for you, it's a mindset at this point. So how would you help a listener out there that needs to get to where you are and they want to be, but they just don't know how to get started on it?
First thing I tell them to do, watch the 12-minute TED Talk by Sean Acor on YouTube. Sean Acor, and then buy the book, The Happiness Advantage.
Happiness Advantage, okay.
That will give you those tips, practices, or you could have us come speak at your place on positive activity. Simple things, gratitude practice, meditation, movement, intentional recall, where you're thinking of something really positive in the last 24 hours, and you're reliving it, because again, we want to get in that place of positivity. I'd say stay away from the news. I'd say stay away from any talk about the news. Keep your head down, and just work your process, your practice, your productivity steps in whatever it is you're trying to do, in whatever business you're in, or whatever personal thing you want to do. I'll give you one final thing about it. Is a buddy of mine came. He lives in California. And he comes this way once a year, and he said last year he came and he said, Neil, I read your book. I loved your book. Is that how you did the other stuff too? I said, yeah. That's all I'm saying. And we have a special needs son, and we built, we had a foundation of special needs education for 18 years. We developed the first of its kind special needs classroom in a community college, and we're actively pursuing ways to find his and other people's forever home. And we're also knee deep in a huge project. I'll say this out loud because I need to sing this from the mountaintops. It's a program called Spelling to Communicate. Any of your listeners, any non-speaking autistic people, please buy the book Underestimated for whatever person that is, the parents of that person, and if it's you, buy it for yourself.
We talk all night, but unfortunately the clock tells me otherwise. Folks, I've been speaking with Neil Rogers. Neil is head of Rogers Marketing. He's a world-renowned expert around the topic of positive and creative habits and the power that can have on your career and on your life. And, I really want to thank you for joining us tonight and sharing some of your wisdom.
Golly, I appreciate it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great for us as well. Folks, I want to thank you also for tuning in. And as I say each week, if you're not following us, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be, but if you aren't, I would love for you to follow us. That's the easiest way to keep track of what's going on here and obviously be aware of our next episode coming out. Otherwise, I would certainly want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the HRKyle Podcast. And I'll close out by saying, stay focused, stay grounded, and of course, stay tuned.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HRKyle Podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HRKyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at HRKyle.com. That's HRKyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HRKyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, keep reaching for those career goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.